All right, folks, we'll get started here in just a moment. And I'll call to order tonight's work session for the Gallatin Municipal Planning Commission. And since the work session, we'll just jump right to the agenda. First item on the agenda is public comment on agenda-related items. So if you're in the audience and you wish to speak about anything on tonight's agenda, this is your chance to come forward and do so. So public comment is now open. All right, seeing nobody jumping out of the chairs, declare public comment closed, and we'll move on to item 2, which is Nichols Place Phase 4 amended preliminary master development plan. And actually,
Water.
yeah, I was going to say, just before we jump into that, the stormwater discussion is the last item on the agenda tonight. We're going to defer that since we're missing several planning commissioners. So if you're planning to hang out to the end of the meeting for that item, there's no need to. So just to give you a heads up. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Commissioners. Brad Hickman, Staff Planner. The owner and applicant request approval of an amended preliminary master development plan and revised final master development plan for Nichols Place Phase 4, consisting of 29 dwelling units with a horizontal property regime on 5.62 acres zoned MRO, multiple residential and office district, located south of Nichols Lane and east of Ferguson Boulevard. This item was deferred a couple of meetings back due to concerns over the extension of Ferguson Road. The applicant has since submitted with that extension and the addition of 2 more units from the last submission. So from the current approved FMDP, we have a net reduction of 1 unit and the addition of 3 parking places. There was some discussion about how far Ferguson Road has been extended, but I'll let engineering speak more to that.
As far as the extension goes, we want it built the farthest extent practicable for that, and then just ensure that we've got any easements necessary in the future to construct that, remaining of it.
Perfect.
So I think what they've got shown is a logical ending point for Ferguson Boulevard.
Great. Do you have a representative for the applicant?
Luke Talley with CSDG, and that was my main thing I wanted to talk with engineering on, so we're good with all staff comments and ready for any questions.
It sounds like you've got it worked out with engineering. You guys are happy. Everybody's good. Then I have nothing to add to that.
I'm good.
All right. We'll see you in a couple weeks. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Item 3 is Myers Hill rezoning with a preliminary master development plan.
Yes, this property is located adjacent to Dobbins Pike and Hicks Lane. It was recently annexed into the city earlier last year. It's a little over 77 acres. The applicant has come back to ask for the zoning to be added to this property with approval of a preliminary master development plan. If you'll recall, this development came in front of you guys about 3 years ago. When they initially proposed annexation. It did not go through at that time. The annexation didn't move forward, so no analysis of the rezoning moved forward either. So now the property is within city limits, so this body can review the zoning request with the proposed plan. With your recommendation, this would go on to city council for a vote. The applicant is proposing 193 single-family lot units. They are a minimum lot size of 6,000 square feet. The main access to this development will be off of Dobbins Pike with a secondary access off of Hicks Lane. There were some concerns expressed the previous time that we saw development for this property and amongst staff once this was resubmitted for the adequate access of Hicks Lane, given that is a substandard county road. We would anticipate that potentially some improvements would need to be made to that. There were also discussions about access through the school property to the south. So I can let engineering elaborate on that or get the applicant to elaborate that on as well. This property does have a cell tower on it with a fall area. They are remaining out of that fall area. A couple other easements on this property and stream buffers to meet the open space requirement. There's a 28% open space requirement, and even with the cell tower easement being taken out, they well meet that requirement. They did provide some architecture for the development. They're proposing 70% brick stone on all facades with both acceptable and unacceptable materials, with vinyl being an unacceptable material for this development. Although I don't think there is a builder specifically attached to the property at this time. Thank you.
Okay, before we hear from the applicant, I want to hear from engineering on their concerns.
Yeah, so just like what Jillian said, the concerns that we had initially remain, concerned about 2 fire code compliant accesses to the property. The one on Dobbins Pike, that's fine. But Hicks Lane, it's not a minimum of 20 feet from Dobbins Pike all the way out to their proposed access. So they would need to, at a minimum, make sure that Hicks Lane is at least 20 feet from Dobbins Pike to their access. We are asking for, it's right where lots 56 and 57 are on Road C, having another connection to Hicks Lane.
I'm going to zoom in so I can follow you along on that.
Has there been discussion about connecting to the park or how that?
As far as where that cul-de-sac
Yeah.
is,
Yeah, because it is a continual challenge that we only have the one access to that park, and I feel like if this is going to develop, that could be such a wonderful opportunity for
Sure.
an access that benefits the property, but also benefits the parks.
agreed. And I think what they would need to do differently on these plans, rather than having a cul-de-sac there, do something more like a hammerhead so that they could actually.
I don't
be
know
able to-
where we would want the connection in the park. That would be something that I would say engineering needs to tell us.
Sure. We'll look into that.
All right, do we have a representative for the applicant? Maybe they can help us with that. Hey, help me get my bearings. Where is this located in the city exactly?
Yeah, so we're off of Dobbins Pike, I think just north of the city, essentially. So West Albert Gallatin is just south of this.
North of
Biddy
Shaker.
Bill's Elementary and the
Okay.
dog
the
shelter
school.
and.
Okay, just getting my bearings.
Okay.
Mitchell Lastly with CSDG. To answer your question, Mayor, we feel like we have set up the connection to what could be a possibility of making that connection to the Gallatin Parks. We'd love to work with engineering on what that needs to look like. For the most part, we agree with staff comments. We would like to bring up the connection between Road E and Road I. Road I is that small cul-de-sac. We're struggling to make that connection just due to crossing the gas line. We're currently crossing it 2 more times and feel like it would be might be a stretch to cross it that 3rd time.
But why is it a stretch to cross it a 3rd time?
Just working, it's a main transmission line, and just working with the gas, I mean, we don't know yet, and we can certainly pursue it, but it could come back and, they not allow us to.
I remember this when it was before us 3 years ago. We had a lot of concerns about Hicks Lane, about the accessibility in it. So I'm quite frankly, a little surprised that it's back exactly the same without addressing some of those things.
So Sumner County, they have gone out and made some improvements to Hicks Lane.
Okay.
I went out and measured it right before this meeting, actually, and it looks like the tightest point is about 18.5 feet, widening out to 19, even to 20 feet in some areas. So there are certainly some work to be done, and road improvements are certainly on the table, but we feel like we can make that work.
I mean, it seems to me that that's the biggest challenge is getting engineering comfortable with the road network and for the fire trucks and all those things. Anybody else have any feedback or comments on it?
My concern would be that of widthing the road. If it's 20 foot, can you get emergency vehicles and everything like else in it? The accessibility to it.
I think that's why that's why it's a minimum of 20 feet. So you've got those big trucks passing each other. It works that kind of right in.
Yeah, 20 feet is the minimum of the fire code.
Okay. That's the feedback. I think that'll be the challenge, getting the road network access to justify putting that many units over there is probably the big thing. All right, well, there's nothing else. We'll see you back in a few weeks.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. Item 4 is Freedom Church rezoning with preliminary master development plan.
Yes, this property includes a portion of the Kensington Downs front out parcel. There were 2 out parcels on Kensington Downs along Greenlee that preserves their PGC zoning. The southern one is the one we were talking about this evening, and just south of that property, there is property owned by Freedom Church that is agricultural residentially zoned, that they would like included with this parcel, and then a master plan and zoning established on this parcel consistent with the PGC zoning district. If you'll recall, I believe it was a year and a half ago, a portion of the Freedom Church Road connection to Greenlee was vacated by the city and given back to Freedom Church. And so that portion of the property is also included in this request. You'll see the breakdown here that was provided by the applicant. The northern portion is currently zoned PGC. The southern portion is currently zoned Ag. They are proposing to put a small multi-tenant building on this property with potential for retail or food service on here. It includes parking spaces with sidewalk connections, landscaping, and also they are proposing that a rear portion of the Freedom Church parking lot be used as overflow parking. And we did request a sidewalk connection in that case with a crosswalk. Freedom Church Road isn't a super heavily traveled road. I don't think that will be super cumbersome for that to support this development. This is a pretty small lot, but the intent of this was to have a commercial out parcel along Greenlee. And then this was the conceptual architecture, which we've seen things similar to it before, and they do intend on meeting the brickstone requirement for this property. And the applicant is here this evening for any discussion. Thank you.
Representative for the applicant.
Luke Talley with CSDG, and we're good with all staff comments and happy to answer any questions.
Just for bearing, so this is kind of directly across the street from the Jobs Center, I think.
I believe there's a Dollar General.
There's a Dollar General and Job Center across
Yeah.
the street from it, the church. It seems like a good fit for the property to me. So when you got commercial across the street from it, makes sense with the church. So you guys are okay with the sidewalk connection over to the parking at the church?
Yes, that's more so if the space ends up being used for a restaurant and
Gotcha.
kind of giving, the more, I guess, the dense parking requirement for that. So
Okay.
if the church members want to go, it's kind of a nice way to get there. So we're
Yeah.
okay with it.
Well, that makes sense because, the rest of the time it's an empty parking lot.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, this one seems pretty straightforward. All right, we'll see you back in a couple weeks. Okay. Item 5 is Vinewood Townhomes amended preliminary master development plan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jim Carpenter, staff planner. The owner and applicant request approval of an amended PMDP and revised final master development plan for Vinewood Townhomes on 11.15 acres, zoned MRO. So what they are wanting to do is to separate off the office building and related parking and separate it onto its own lot and then retain the townhomes. A bunch of site work has been done on this site. They just want to separate off the office. And so they also have a plat that's in, but it's a 2-lot plat, so that's in-house. That's why it's not here. But outside of that, staff had mostly minor comments on the FMDP.
All right, thanks. Do you have a representative for the applicant for this project?
Hi, Allison Turner with Greenlit Design. We're in agreement with staff comments.
Okay, just make sure I understand. So they're just wanting to split this off as its own parcel.
Right.
So it doesn't necessarily have to go with the townhomes.
So they're not tied together.
It's not tied together. I mean, I don't see an objection to that. Yeah. Okay, thanks. Item 6, Oak Grove Farms, a site plan.
The owner and applicant request approval of a site plan for Oak Grove Farms constructing a 29,400 square foot fresh food market on 4.02 acres, Zone CG, Commercial General District, located at 517 West Main Street. Staff mainly had some comments around labeling and some dimensions we'd require here. We did get some elevations as of today, so it's a little, the 29,400 square feet will actually be divided between 2 units. It's going to be a multi-tenant building, as you can see here. It's brick and stone on every facade except for the rear. They'll need an exception for the metal paneling that's on the back. We did have some more questions around buffer yards and whether they were going to keep some of the existing vegetation.
Okay, thanks, Brad. And we have a representative for the applicant for this project.
Again, Allison Turner with Greenwood Design, representing this project. We've just, we're looking through comments today, and there's a couple of concerns. We've worked with staff to locate the driveways where they wanted them, so they aligned with across the street. In doing so, the requirement is for an 80-foot throat. That means the driveway itself has to be 80 feet before we get into any parking. With this building and those locations, that's probably not doable, at least not on both driveways. So that's something we'll need to work with staff and see if we can come up with an alternative possibly, or a variance. The other concern that we have through the staff comments is the connectivity across to the CVS on one side and the bank on the other side. There's a considerable elevation difference there, and both of those facilities are existing. So, and then trying to put them in a look, and they're not going to be the same on either side for where those are located. So I'm not, again, that's something we'll need to talk to staff about and how they want us to work through that, or if that's even feasible. I like the idea as a person who cuts through there frequently, but just trying to work out the mechanics of it, because the bank on the other side sits significantly lower than this site in that particular location over there. And then the same with the CVS. They're both kind of low, and this sits on the knob of that hill, as everyone who's driven through there kind of knows. So getting those in, obviously those connections wouldn't be made at this time, but they would be prepared at this time for some redevelopment of the adjacent properties, I would assume. So those are just concerns that we have, trying to figure out how to make that functionally work. And another comment was that the sidewalk is required to be 6 feet. It's an existing sidewalk, which we weren't planning to remove and rebuild since it's existing in that area. I don't know if that's something we can, again, work through.
How wide is the?
5 feet.
5 feet, okay. Okay.
I'm happy to answer questions as I can.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think the last time this was before us, we had the same kind of conversations about the access and getting it relocated.
But it wasn't a comprehensive thing. It was like an individual
It was, yeah, it was over there by the
lot.
CVS.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited about this.
Well, I'm gonna start off saying that. I mean, this is the old Miracle Ford site, I think, wasn't it?
Pardon?
Miracle Ford? Yeah, this is where Miracle Ford was, so it's, everybody is familiar with one. Now it's got the temporary business that's operated on it.
I just think there's been a lot that's looked at that property.
Yeah.
And a lot of possibilities, and to see somebody that's been invested in that property taking it kind of to the next level, I think is super cool. And
It's really cool. So I'd start that. I think we definitely need to figure out how to make it work. So
Yeah,
let's
we want to
start
make it
there.
work. When you're redeveloping a site in an existing area, there's always challenges, and, so we're kind of working with the area that we have.
So I guess my question, and maybe even for engineering, I'm very familiar with this site and the tube next to it, and getting connections made to the site and prepped would be, I don't say impossible, but it's probably not practical. So can we look at an option to establish easements that go to the property line for a future redevelopment that has some setup, but I don't know that it makes sense to build them in this particular property.
So the problem with that is the same thing that that we face with others, how there's an easement on there, but we would be asking somebody else to get off of their property to go and construct that.
Yeah.
So we did give two options. So there was a plan in the previous master transportation plan for kind of Gallatin High School backage road that would go from Greenwave Drive and tie into Maple Street, just kind of south of the Walgreens. And so we thought that Mike could set that up in the rear, and have the connection on the back of it, and then connect kind of south to where the bank is. They have the pavement in that section doesn't round off. So, I mean, they could easily do that and set that up. We gave the option, just flexible, either a frontage or backage. I don't know which one is better in this case. But, yeah, we would not be asking them to make the tie-in to CVS right now if that was the option that they wanted to go with, but at least prep it and try to build it to the property line. That way, if the CVS lot or the bank lot develops, we can have that connection.
And the CVS lot may be more feasible. The bank lot, under its current development, elevationally is not feasible.
Sure.
So, and
Yeah,
you
and
need
we're
to take a
aware of that.
ramp. So I guess if they could redevelop it, they'd have to ramp, but it's in their, it would go into their pond now, but if somebody redeveloped that site down the road, then potentially.
Right, and that would be on that new developed lot to match it and tie into that.
Yeah.
It would, if the CVS or the bank lot were to come in for redevelopment, we would have the same comment that they need to stub for adjacent access.
We might be able to look towards going to the fairground lot behind us and make some cross-connectivity that direction as opposed to going to the bank side itself. That's something we could look at and discuss, because I think with that potentially redeveloping at some point in the near future, that might be a place to make that happen instead of through the bank where there's such a significant elevation.
Sure, something that we can look at.
Okay. As long as you're willing to work with us, we'll try and help find some solutions there.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm hearing, I think engineering will work with the best they can, and if it's just not practical, then I think,
That's probably the easier thing to deal with than maybe the throat on that parking, just because of the location of the entrances themselves.
Sure, and the way that they've shown the entrances is exactly where we wanted them to. Because that site has 4, if not 5, existing accesses. And so that what they've shown is consistent with what we kind of thought were the best for this site. So, yeah, we want to get that. With West Main Street being a major arterial, we want to make sure that we get as much throat length as we can. There's ways that you could alter the curb lines to kind of help get some more. I think they're at 55-ish now.
Yeah,
Something.
we made them as long as we could. We pushed back to get as
Right.
much as we could on them, so.
So
We're kind of
just,
pinched in that odd corner in the back.
and then, so that's that one. And then the other comment was the sidewalk. It's a requirement for anything that's non-residential to be 6 feet. Like I mentioned before, there were 4 or 5 accesses, and they're going to be doing a lot of work there. They're going to have to redo the curb in there, so there's going to be some work done with that anyway. So I don't know how much of that sidewalk's going to get cleaned up with that. So that's why we're making the comment for 6 feet.
We're also having, because of the relocation of one of the entrances, we're going to have to move one of those major power poles, which is going to be $25,000 just to move one pole.
I remember the whole discussion when it was an oil change place about the power pole. So, Fran.
I had a question about the rear of the property. On the aerials, you can see that there is a tree line there. Does the tree line remain, or is that going to get removed due to some of the grading work that has to occur along that back for that driveway?
Some of the trees will be removed. We'll try and maintain what we can, or at least thin out the brush that's underneath them and salvage whatever trees we can, so.
That sort of feeds another question. The rear elevation on the property, on the building, is all metal, whereas the other 3 are all brick or stone. And I think some consideration needs to be taken especially if some of those trees are being removed, that it would be much more visible from the other side, and we would want to see that look similar to the other 3 elevations. So,
Or at least something to offset that. I got you.
Break it up. Yeah.
As a resident, I'm in favor of that. So,
Okay.
and then the 2 little side buildings are greenhouses that would be installed as well.
Cool.
That's neat. I'm really looking forward to seeing it. I think, the feedback I would give you, I think, is, work out what you can with with engineering on the access points and do the best that's possible with the site and the restraints that it's got. The amount of work that's going to have to go into the sidewalk, probably does need to be the 6 feet and get that, because we're going to be really looking for that as we redevelop all this. Because somebody else is going to have to put 6 feet in, and then you're the old 5-foot one, and it would look better anyway if it all matched. So.
But I also feel like this is kind of a thing that can look different because it's cool and unique.
Absolutely.
And doesn't necessarily need to fall right in line with the bank and the drugstore. And
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying on the accesses. It's I think I'd be willing to get more flexibility on that to make sure that this actually gets built. But I would like to see the consistency in the sidewalks down Nashville Pike over time. So as we're doing that, and to the point, they're going to end up tearing up so much of it. It's not going to, a 6-foot sidewalk isn't going to be a deal killer on this. But that's my feedback. Anybody else have anything? All right, looking forward to seeing it built. Thanks. Okay, item 7, Oak Hill Phase 3 preliminary plat.
Good evening, Commissioners. Charlie Peary, Staff Planner. The owner and applicant is requesting approval of a preliminary plat for the Oak Hill subdivision, Phase 3, consisting of 33 single-family residential lots on a 16.12 plus or minus acres, zoned as R15 medium-density residential. This is located south of State Route 31E and west of Roundtree Drive. Staff had some minor comments about the upkeep of the plat. Previous versions of this plat had 2 additional notes on the bottom here. We asked that they put those back on. There's also a lot layout that is missing from this plat from the previous ones. We request that they put that back on as well. And then the issue of addressing, we put a note on here that the applicant can reach out to E911 to get that resolved. Thank you.
All right, great. Do you have a representative for the applicant? You can just use the chair right there. It's okay.
We're in agreement with staff comments. Sorry, Allison Turner.
That's correct. So was there some discussion about the access points with TDOT on this one? I seem to remember there being something.
If I can get my mic to turn on. Yes, there are some conversations that are being had on that. It's so per our discussions with TDOT, for them to get a second access, both this access and the Alder Lane need the turn lanes installed.
So when you say a turn lane off of the main road into the neighborhood?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So the old traffic impact study, the access that they're showing to 31 should show 2 exiting lanes and 1 entering lane rather than just 1 entering, 1 exiting. But the impact study also recommended that a left turn lane and a right turn lane on 31 needs to be constructed at.
that will help out there.
Yes. So that's been the big thing, because the way that TDOT has said it, they are not open to giving them a permit to build this other driveway unless both of them are bonded with TDOT.
And y'all are aware of that?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. I'd heard something about it, so just to make sure we talked about it. All right. Thanks. Item 8, Twin Eagles Phase 15B, Section 3, Final Master Development Plan.
Good evening, Commissioners. Kimberly Atlee, Staff Planner. The owner applicant requests approval on amended preliminary master plan development and final master plan. On your agenda, there is a change on that. I had to change that to amend the PMDP. Minor change, what we're doing is they reduce the number of lots due to the stormwater. So we just want to make record that it has changed. This is for the Twin Eagles Phase 15B, Section 3. They're proposing 23 single-family lots on a portion of the 59.10 acres. It's zoned MU, mixed-use development. It's located north of Westcat Run and east of Douglas Lane. Recently, we just approved the Section 1 and Section 2. This is Dottie Lane connection that is required for Section 2, this portion right here. So, there we go. The architects are consistent with the Twin Eagles development. There were some minor changes that we requested, but overall it is pretty consistent with the preliminary master plan.
All right, thanks. Do we have a representative for the applicant?
Allison Turner with Greenwood Design. We're in agreement with staff comments. We'll work, I think there were some comments about wetlands, and we're working with TDEC on getting those approvals in place.
Okay. The only real question I had on this, I know we've talked at length about the road connection to, was it Douglas, I think it is? Douglas, are we still consistent with that, and it's giving everybody what they wanted?
Yes, basically with the Section 1 final plat, before the plat can be recorded, we need the surety for this. And then, when they get, I believe it's halfway through Section 2 on those lots, they'll make sure that they get, before the final CO of Section 2.
Just want to make sure we got it covered. Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you. Are you done for the night now? Okay. Item 9 is Rogers Group Office 2228 Nashville Pike, final master development plan.
The owner and applicant requests approval of a final master development plan for Rogers Group Office on a 0.93 acre lot zoned MRO, multiple residential and office, located north of Nashville Pike and south of State Route 386. This final master development plan is consistent with the preliminary master development plan. I know there was talks about having this access way to be paved per the fire department comment in the pre-app meeting. Staff had some minor comments about the upkeep with the notes that are typically on a master plan on the cover sheet. There was some discussion with engineering about having a access on this corner. I believe that's I want to say southwest corner, so that it lines up with Hunt Club Boulevard. I will let them speak a little more on that.
So basically on that, we measured out kind of a 40 by 90 access easement that we would want them to have just for future redevelopment of the larger lot around them. With Hunt Club Boulevard getting a traffic signal in the near future, we thought that as that bigger property, if it redevelops, it would be great to have a fourth leg to that intersection come through. So we're not asking them to build that fourth leg, but we're asking that just an easement be reserved, so in the future, that can be done.
All right, so you have a representative for the applicant.
Corey Nelson, 615 Design Group. We agree with most of staff's comments. I will have to get with Caleb about the easement. Just as, you know, this Rogers Group, they're redoing the farmland over there. They're doing a restoration. So currently at this time, it doesn't seem like there's any plan for Rogers Group to redevelop this or send it off. It's very historic, that building right there. That's part of this encompassing parcel. But that's definitely a conversation we can have with staff, and my apologies for not reaching out prior to this meeting.
I mean, yeah, it sounds like they're just asking for an easement to be reserved, so that shouldn't be a real big ask.
Yeah, I just want to make sure my client is aware of what's being asked, so.
Sure. Yeah, no, do it. Do I think they're ever going to redevelop this, knowing what's going on underneath of it and behind it? Probably not.
And then I guess one other comment was the 800 square feet of impervious. I was trying to look in the ordinance, I think it was Article 6 for that. If there was more clarification. Again, I apologize for not reaching out, so if that's something we need to coordinate offline, that's totally.
Yeah, just, you can work with Ryan on any questions
Okay.
that you've got.
Perfect.
He was going to be here tonight to give a presentation that could have answered some of that, but
We're a few people
Yeah, I
short.
was going to say, I know a couple that, are in better weather right now.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, yeah, I mean, that was the only thing I was going to talk about was the access easement, so. And then you're going to pave the drive that's currently connecting Nashville Pike and get that.
Correct, and that kicked us coordination with TDOT, which we're currently underway. We have a meeting this week, not this week, but this month to discuss that. They're kind of backed up.
Works for me. Anybody else? All right, thanks, we'll see you back in a couple weeks.
Thank you.
All right. Item 10 is Nichols West Final Master Development Plan.
All right, the owner applicant requests approval for the final master plan for Nichols West subdivisions located south of Nichols Lane and east of Lock 4 Road. They're proposing 139 single-family detached residential lots on approximately 53 acres. The density is 2.6 units per acre. Lot size ranging from 6,000 to 11,500 square feet, including both the front-loading and an alley-loaded. There are additional 32 parallel parking spaces. Just to make note, this one right here, this is a large development. There is a note on the plat, or the plans, that a 20-foot wide temporary fire access to Bryan Lane is required to be functional and fire code compliant before the 31st building permit is issued, and/or if they can come up with another connection that would be satisfied to the fire department and the planning department. As you may notice that Nichols is also joining Banks to the south, which they're going to connect at some point, which leads into the next. There's a multi-mode plan that indicates that there's a greenway alignment and going through the middle of the property on the 10-foot. So down the main corridor, there will be a 10-foot sidewalk greenway going into the Banks parking lot. There will be 2 phases. They project to start in June of 2025 and completing in 2028. There were a few corrections required on the FMDP, but it's pretty much consistent with the PMDP layout.
We have a representative for the applicant. All right, thanks.
Brad Snyder, CSDG. We've read through the comments, nothing major. This is very consistent with the PMDP, no major changes.
So the same engineer, y'all good with the temporary fire access and working that out?
that's something that they can work out with the fire department, but yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. Yeah, I mean, it looked pretty consistent to me. I didn't really have any comments on this one. Anybody else have anything? All right, thanks, Brad. We'll see you back in a couple weeks.
Thank you.
Item 11, Hunt Club Retail, Final Master Development Plan.
The owner and applicant requests approval of a final master development plan for Hunt Club Retail consisting of 2 retail buildings on 6.77 acres zoned MU Mixed Use District located south of Nashville Pike and west of Hunt Club Boulevard. Among some of the comments that staff had was, possibly connecting the sidewalk here to 31, as the only other connection shown on the plans is here off of Hunt Club Boulevard. Engineering did spot a property line on this plan that seems to pass through the dumpster enclosures. So if they do plan on platting this off in the future, they may need to readjust that line so that the dumpsters are actually on this property. And something that was on the PMDP that did not make it onto this plan was an easement for a road to connect to this access road from behind the property here. The elevations are all brick with metal awnings, which meet the requirement. That's all.
All right, thanks. We have a representative for the applicant.
Luke Talley with CSDG, and we agree with all comments. And as far as the property lines that have the dumpsters kind of taken apart from the buildings, we're going to adjust that to make it make sense. The property line as it is now is more so to set building setbacks in case they want to do the plats in the future, but we're not 100% sure on how the owner's going to take it at this point, but we'll adjust. As far as the access to the south that he mentioned, the line work just got misplaced. We'll put it back in there. We have the site set up for that connection, and the pond is, not a conflict with that, so it should be no problem.
Thoughts on, can you connect that sidewalk down off of National Pike up there?
The grades to that position probably are going to be pretty difficult, so we're probably going to elect to put the sidewalk connection to Nashville Pike between the buildings through those islands, if that's acceptable.
Yeah, I think the intent is to have a connection sidewalk off of Nashville Pike rather than having to come all the way around the Hunt Club. So I think that would be okay.
All right.
Grade change. Yeah, that was my only, I don't have anything else. It's a good looking building, so looking forward to seeing them over there. Any other comments for anybody? No. All right, we'll see you back. Thanks. Item 12 is 214 Ross Avenue Final Master Development Plan.
Yes, the owner applicant requests approval for a final master plan development for 2 single-family detached residential units with a horizontal property regime. It's located at 214 Ross Avenue. It's on approximately 2.4 acres, zoned R6. 2 single-family detached and an HPR are allowed in an R6 zone. The 10,350 square foot lot allows for the density, so the density is met at 2,900, and then the setbacks are met. The surrounding properties are R6 except for in the rear, which is CG. So there will be landscaping that will be required. They are proposing also a rain garden to mitigate any of the stormwater runoff. Our regulations do state that they need to have 70% brick and stone, or any new construction will be compatible with the established character of the existing residential neighborhood. That's all I have.
All right, thanks. You have a representative for the applicant.
I'm Michael Barnes, I'm the owner, and I've read over the comments and everything, and they all seem to be okay to me with the exception of just the 70% brick. The neighborhood is, I would say 90% siding or more, and so that's what I would like to propose to do. And then as far as the landscape buffer goes in the rear, I would like to do a 6-foot privacy fence as the buffer.
I mean, that's allowed, I believe, and that makes sense because you've got that industrial kind of warehouse space behind this lot. So I don't see an issue with that. And as far as the siding goes, I guess when we get to the next meeting, if we've got just some examples of what's in the neighborhood that shows that it's consistent. We've pretty consistently allowed that variance as long as it's consistent with the neighborhood. So those would be. But this is a good example of one that fits. It meets the requirements for everything. So we've done several of these that are very similar. So anybody else have any comments about it?
No, just agree, bring pictures of the neighborhood.
Yep. All right. Sounds good. We'll see you back in a couple weeks. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Item 13 is Wawa Preliminary Master Development Plan.
The owner and applicant request approval of a preliminary master development plan for Wawa to construct a 6,374 square foot convenience sales and service use with gas pumps and a fuel canopy on 3.53 acres, zoned MU, mixed use, located west of Greenlee and south of Long Hollow. As you may remember, this area was zoned MU in, I want to say 2008, 2009, and it was zoned without any master development plans at that time. So this has kind of been the expectation. The applicant requests approval of a conditional use for convenience sales and service. MU requires that as a conditional use, and there are some conditions with that, one of which is that the architecture will look more residential in nature. Traditionally, that's been done with primarily brick stone buildings and with mansard or pitched roof canopies. The applicant requests approval of an alternate architecture plan as shown. And with that, staff had mostly minor comments on the actual site plan, other than a slight realignment of one of the driveways for Beatty Boulevard. But outside of that, we had very few comments on the site plan portion. Our comments are more regarding code and architecture for the building.
Jim, do you have a representative for the applicant?
Evening, Landon Boggs with Kimberly Horn. I've got Megan Salvador with Wawa here with me as well, and then we've got an owner representative, the owner's representative, and then Emily Zeller, another one of my colleagues here as well. The main takeaway that we had is we're going to propose an alternative parking arrangement in that this building is not your traditional convenience sales and service stores, and we believe that we should not be counted traditionally as that. We'll count the portion of the building that's dedicated to food service because there is the fly-through, the Wawa, the new standard for them, the fly-through, that people can order food on their phone, pick up at the window. There's no ordering, and there's no exchanging of money taking place at the store. It's all done app-based. But there is a significant portion of the building that is dedicated to that food service. And so we're proposing that portion of the building be counted as a restaurant style with drive-in window. And then the remainder portion of the building will be for convenience sales and service. Because right now, what we did currently show with convenience sales and service, we're exceeding our maximum parking. And with the proposed realignment and the recalculation, we would be within our maximum. That's the big comment we had regarding site. If anybody has any other questions regarding the site.
Jim, do you have any comments on the parking? Does that?
Yeah, so if they were, I think, 13 or 14 spaces over what would be convenience sales and service,
Right.
which would require pervious pavers. So it's kind of hard to tell without this being zoomed in, but this whole row of parking is EV charging. So it wouldn't really make sense to do pervious pavers with that. So they could find perhaps another space, but considering the food service use and the convenience sales, it's a little bit of a different standard than most convenience stores that do similar levels of food.
I mean, that makes sense to me, so I don't see an issue with that on the parking. I think that's fine.
And I know there was a question regarding some of the architectural standards. Wawa is comfortable, and Megan, correct me if I'm overstepping my bounds here. No issues from their end about stone, brick stone, and then as far as the columns as well on the, let's see if I'm smart enough to figure this out. On the canopy and the dumpster pad, and on the dumpster enclosure as well. The dumpster enclosure is going to be on the southwest portion of the site, so it's going to be viewed, it's going to be minimally visible from the streets. And then the last thing I want to bring up is the grading aspect of this site. There is a significant drop-off from both Long Hollow and Greenlee onto this site. So I don't think you're going to be in a situation where you're going to have this canopy sticking up that looks, it's not going to be very pronounced. It's going to be subdued a little bit into the site. There is going to be some grade drop-off from the main roads.
I was just going to say, well, first of all, I think I've heard a lot about people wanting Wawa here, so there is that. But personally, I've seen several different architectural styles of Wawas, and then when I looked online to kind of see what was out there, it was all over the place. And so, anything that you could help us do to get more towards that place where it fits more in that area, I think would be helpful. I mean, I don't think what you're proposing is horrible, but I also know there's some architectural designs that could fit better.
Thank you, and I'm happy that people are excited. I'm really excited for Wawa to come. I've been a resident of Tennessee for 13 years, and the only other full-time employee actually lives in Gallatin, so this is really important to her. She's medically not able to be here today, but thank you. From what you're referring to about the difference in the types of our stores, I totally agree. If you go to Florida, you'll see they look different. In Pennsylvania, they look different. And one thing, as we double our store count and our employee count across our entire real estate portfolio, they really wanted some new market rollout and consistency going forward. So that's why you see, a ton of years have gone into the design of this building, and I do get it a lot where people want it to look more residential and have those elements within there, but we're really trying to be protective of this prototype because we are rolling out 200+ stores in 3-4 different states coming out soon. So that's why you might have seen some inconsistency there.
But it's the brand that attracts people. I mean, no offense, but the store, that design's not like real.
That is definitely out of my wheelhouse. I find the great land for it. And just to touch on the canopy as well, just because the slanted canopy is obviously a little bit different, but that is trademarked for Wawa. People, especially as we're building a brand in a new state and new states, that's definitely the first indicator that that's a Wawa to our loyal customer base. So that's something that we have also been incredibly protective of, but we have complemented that by, we're happy to put any kind of masonry, brick, or any kind of materials. We don't fight on that. We really want our stores to look more elevated than all of our competitors.
I'd say the canopy and the pumps look better than we see normally.
I was going to make the comment, we're talking about making it residential, but the Nexus development, which is probably the biggest thing happening in Sumner County, is this kind of architecture, more the modern architecture with the slant. So we're seeing the style starting to show up. But I would suggest working with staff on some of the masonry and those pieces of it, and to the point about the elevation. When it comes back, if you can work up an elevation that shows kind of how it sits on the road and how much that canopy is visible above the road compared to a flat, I think that would go a long way.
We're happy to do that.
I guess my only question is, in regards to realignment of the driveway, you guys have heard discussions.
Yes, we'll need them to line it up with the extension of Beatty Boulevard.
I've actually got those files. They're sitting in my inbox now, requesting them. They were received today, so appreciate your staff's timely response.
Yeah, no problem.
Those are the only comments I have. Anybody else have anything? No. Look, it's exciting. We're looking forward to seeing Wawa come to Gallatin. So, all right, with nothing else, we'll see you back in weeks. Thank you. Another other business, the stormwater discussion. We're going to defer that until all the members are present. And that takes us down to announcements.
Again, I've made this announcement the past couple times, but we do have the Tapa Spring Retreat coming up on the 17th and 18th. I don't know that I've received any notices from any planning commission members that want to attend that. If you do, obviously, let us know and we can get you scheduled. And we do have money in our planning department budget for that. So.
Should we go through Marion?
I do, but I want to see their agenda if they get one published.
It is available now. I'll send an email out to everyone. The legislative update does happen to be on the Monday afternoon day. So it's only a half day in the afternoon on Monday, but that is the day where the legislative update is. So I know that was a question that the members had. Other than that, I have an email out to try to request to see if they will be recording any of the sessions. Again, it's my thought that they won't be, but because that's typically what the past has been, but I've got the question out there and waiting for a response, so.
I will not be able to attend either day. My schedule as it's gone, I've not been able to move stuff around, so I'll be unavailable.
I'll be attending Monday.
Okay. Say that again, Albert?
You say Monday's a half day and Tuesday's a full day?
That's correct. And
I'll try and go Tuesday.
the registration for just the single day is cheaper than both days. So, yeah.
That's it. Well,
What about moving the stormwater discussion that we were going to have tonight to the April 7th work session?
yeah, let's
How does
plan.
everyone feel
Let's
about
plan
that?
on that, please.
Okay,
And then we'll poll the members and make sure we're going to have a good attendance.
yes. So yeah, if you don't know in advance, if you can't come, please let us know.
That gets us past spring break, so it should settle
Yeah.
back down.